In section 6.1, we need to first discuss the difference between a ratio and a proportion. Now, a ratio and a proportion are related to each other, but they're not quite the same thing. A ratio relates two numbers, such as 1 to 2. Now, a ratio can be written as a fraction, or as a relationship between two numbers, or using words, 1 to 2. A proportion relates two ratios in an equality, in an equation. 1/2 is equal to 2/4. A proportion is really two ratios set equal to each other. Now, when we have a ratio, our job will be to simplify that ratio. Now, we can simplify that ratio by looking at the numbers and simplifying the fraction down to its lowest term, or we can simplify using units and switching units to be able to simplify our ratio. In a proportion, because we have an equal sign, our job will be to solve. Let's take a look at some examples that involve ratios and proportions. Example number 1. 1/2 plus 2/3. We're starting with two ratios, but we don't have an equal sign. So our job will be to simplify. So we need to simplify 1/2 plus 2/3. To simplify 1/2 plus 2/3, we need to have a common denominator. In order to add fractions, we need a common denominator. In this case, our denominators are 2 and 3, so our common denominator will be 6. So I need to switch 1/2 into something over 6. Well, to make 2 into 6, I need to multiply by 3. And if I multiply my denominator by 3, I better multiply my numerator by 3. So 1/2 is equivalent to 3/6. And to make 3 into 6, I need to multiply by 2. So I better also multiply my numerator by 2. So 2/3 is equivalent to 4/6. So in order to simplify this, I need to get my common denominator. Now, to add fractions, I add my numerators, 3 plus 4, and I keep my denominator the same, 6. Finally, I add 3 and 4, and I keep my denominator 6. So my final answer is 7/6. I have a fraction in lowest terms. In lowest terms means there is no term common between my numerator and my denominator. Notice that I wrote 7/6 as a fraction, not 1 1/6 or a decimal. It's 7/6. Second example, 1/2 times 2/3. Again, I don't have an equal sign, so my directions will be simplify. Well, here I have a ratio times a ratio. And in order to multiply ratios together, I'm going to multiply the numerators, 1 times 2, and my denominators, 2 times 3. Different than adding fractions, multiplying, I just multiply straight across. I don't need a common denominator. Now I need to do that math. 1 times 2 is 2, and 2 times 3 is 6. Now 2/6 is equivalent to my answer, but it's not my answer. I haven't simplified yet. 2/6 can be reduced to 1/3. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So 2/6 reduces to 1/3. Notice again, my answer is a fraction in lowest terms. Third example. 2/3 equals 9 over x. Here's where I actually have a proportion. I have an equal sign. So my directions will be solve. I have a ratio equaling a ratio, a fraction equaling a fraction. So in order to solve, I'm going to cross multiply. To cross multiply, I'm going to drop my equal sign straight down. I started with an equal sign. I want to keep an equal sign. I'm going to take the numerator times the denominator, 2 times x, and the denominator times the numerator, 3 times 9. Now at this point, I'm going to solve for x. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So x equals 27 halves. Notice, I can't reduce 27 halves. I'm not going to write it as a mixed number or a decimal. I'm going to leave my answer as a fraction, as a ratio in lowest terms. And the last example we're going to go over. b plus 3 over 2 equals b over 4. Again, we have an equal sign, so we're going to solve. To solve, I'm going to drop my equal sign straight down, and I'm going to cross multiply again. I'm going to take b plus 3 times 4. Now when I take b plus 3 times 4, I'm taking 4 times this entire numerator. Notice that my fraction bar goes all the way across. So when I take this entire numerator times 4, I need to put b plus 3 in a grouping symbol. I need to put it in parentheses because I want to make sure that this 4 goes all the way to the b and to the 3. Equals 2 times b. Now in order to solve, I'm going to have to distribute first. So I get 4b plus 12 equals 2b. Keep solving for b by subtracting 2b from both sides. So I'm left with b equals negative 6. Notice that I did not write it as negative 6 over 1. My answer is just negative 6. So when I get an answer that is an integer, I can just leave my answer as an integer. I don't need to write it as a fraction over 1. My answer is just negative 6.